Welcome to On Common Ground with Dusty Keene, the podcast. I'm very, very, very excited today to have one of my friends on and one of the most talented singer-songwriter musicians I've ever got to know. This guy is just incredible. In fact, in my opinion, there is no better vocalist than Angie Aparo. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a bio for Angie. Angie is a solo songwriting talent behind Faith Hill's multi-platinum song Cry. Aparo's songwriting credentials also appeared on the albums of Miley Cyrus, Big and Rich, and Tim McGraw. He signed with Clive Davis with Arista Records in 2000 and released an album called The American, which was absolutely awesome. If you haven't heard The American, you must listen to that album. And that led to supporting a U.S. tour and sharing the stage with the likes of Matchbox 20, Faith Hill, and Evelyn McCain. In 2005, he appeared on Faith Hill's NBC Thanksgiving special, singing Cry with Hill and catching the attention of producer Dan Huff, who does produces Keith Urban and the Rascal Flatts. Huff will go on to produce Aparo's 2006 release, El Primero del Tres, and Aparo penned two songs on Tim McGraw's 2012 release, Emotional Traffic, namely the one and only Human, which McGraw recorded as a duet with R&B artist Neo. Also in 2012, Aparo appeared on Zach Brown's live album DVD, Pass the Jar, and was featured on duet with Brown on the song Junkyard in Atlanta Fox Theater, which is also a very cool place if you get a chance to go. Yeah, absolutely. Aparo's new album, Life is a Flower, Life is a Gun, which was released in February 2008, is out now, so go buy it. We'll plug that again. Angie's also the creator of the soon-to-be-released Balloonville, which we're going to talk about, an animated and illustrated web series. Where his alter egos come to life, and that's suited for the summer of 2021. I actually got to know Angie, and my kind of history with him is I'd seen him play when I was managing a bar in Atlanta called Smithsville Bar, and then I had seen him play some events around Atlanta and was just blown away. I remember one time he was in a singer-songwriter, like an In the Round, and I guess I'll bring this back up to you, so I'll bring it up to touch back on it. But then since then, he also came and played the Flatiron, which I am live from now, and that was just unbelievable. That was like kind of a bucket list show that I got to be a part of. And then I went down to Hilton Head and saw him and recorded the first ever song that I ever recorded was Baby. And like this guy in the studio is unbelievably, like he just showed me this whole other easy process of being able to do something. And I, for the first time ever, was relaxed enough to do something. And that was really, really a treat for me. So without further ado, let's bring on Angie Aparo. As you can see in your window there. How you doing, man?
Good.
Dude, it's good to see your face.
I always wear my pink bandana when I'm drinking vodka. I wear my, but the problem is I have Jaeger sitting next to me too, so I gotta have to change bandanas, and if I change drinks,
you might need a change. Yes, dude. Always the showman, Angie Aparo. Man, you are one of the, like, sitting down and talking with you. You love to have existential conversations and are very tuned into a lot of things in life that are philosophical and just kind of, you're really have become about deeper things, and you've gone through a whole lot in your life. And most people, don't have as many trials and tribulations as you have. And you've had, some great successes, and you've had some difficulties with health, and you've had some challenges with, just in so many different areas to lead you to who you are now. And so I guess, kind of lead us through, like, how you got into music and some of your highlights to what you think have brought you to the place that you're in today.
It's odd because it's kind of strange, and I've heard this from a couple of other musician friends of mine, or artists, but I don't know how or why, maybe it's past lives or something, but I literally remember being depressed and suffering depression when I was like 6. And just kind of not attached and very, in fact, I think one of my early teachers told my mother this story, that I was just sort of detached from, so whatever was going on. And I do believe in a large part of me believes in past lives, or either carrying, ancestors' troubles with, but so I kind of like music. I was led towards music because of the sort of heavy weight on a kid that's that young. And so I think the first time I ever sang, I was in second grade, and apparently, as my mother reminded me, I took this Christmas album to school, and there was no like show and tell. I just went to the teacher and said, "Put this on. I'm going to sing with it." It's like, okay, cool. Why is this guy just going to like take over the room? And so that was just very bizarre when I look back at it. Of course, my mother thought it was crazy too. So I think I was just drawn into it from a kind of a spiritual, psychological reason to do music. I think God or even my psyche was leading me to that as a medicine, I think. And so I stuck with it, and it just, then it keeps growing. And my theory about that stuff for a lot of artists is that it can start off like that, and then all of a sudden it can become a career or might not, And I just kind of continued through it. Was kind of, you didn't know. And I came up in the 70s, and you didn't go to a shrink, it was just kind of odd. It was the beginning of, Psychology Today, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
So it was, yeah. So, your parents don't send you to a shrink. They just say, they just beat you and send you to your room.
Right. Pick out that switch. Yeah. You'll be better in a minute.
Now you have 4 diseases if you're 6 years old. So I just continued. And then by the time I was 15, I was in a pretty great, like, cover rock band in Atlanta. I was playing underground Atlanta in the late 70s, and my parents were just like, I think they thought I was going to run off with a circus. So they've been such great, parents for me. And I remember my mother coming to me and saying that there was kind of the school Fame, in New York. There was like a Fame kind of affiliate to that in Atlanta at Northside High School back in the 70s, 80s. And they wanted me, they said, we'll let you go to this, art, this art kind of high school, and you can, I was like, had my long hair, I was playing Zeppelin, and I was like, that's just so, oh God, it's like, what, are you going to make me start dancing now? What do I have to do? So I just kind of, unfortunately, I kind of wish I would have went, but I kind of blew it off, and I said, man, I'm a rock and roller. I don't want to go do that. I don't want to do theater. And so they said, okay, we'll just try to make B's and not flunk out as a, meth addict or whatever. And we'll let you continue playing. Cause I was playing till 3 a.m. and coming home and kind of washing up and sleeping for an hour and going to high school. And so that went on. And then I know it's just like,
it's like early rock star. Yeah.
And so that just kind of continued. And then the thing that really kind of, I think, was the other part of my psyche, that music was giving me this one medicine, but the other side was just love, so I was just attracted. I was already attracted to I got married very young. Like by the time I was 18, I was married and still trying to do music. And then that became a clash. And then it just propelled this road of like, tragic marriages. I think I know now, looking back now, it's just sort of the battle between, you want love, but I need my medicine. But it's just kind of just a broken artist, which I think a lot of art is, to me, the greatest art is the most selfish in a way. But because the artist is sort of going through things, and I think the true fans or viewers are really voyeurs, to the art. Right. So that's kind of what led me here, and what kind of propelled this kind of just crazy. I look back at it, I'm like, I was divorced 3 times. I can't even remember. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
What was her name?
I don't know. What was his name? I don't care. No, but right. My joke. If I get one more divorce, I get into the Country Music Hall of Fame. So yes,
there was a point where like things really seemed like for you they were just you were on a rocket ship, man, and you were gonna go wham, and talk about I guess how things changed when you had signed with Clive, because it seems like that was sort of a pivotal point in your career when things began to really kind of shift gears for you. What was that like? What was that experience? This guy is like, to even meet the guy would be, such a privilege to so many musicians, but you got to work with him. So what was that like? How did that happen?
He would, and what's interesting about him is, and I was late in life. I was in my mid-30s when he signed me. So not the traditional 90s to 2000, anyone getting, record industry was still a big thing. And it was all about, signing youthful rock stars. And Clive didn't give a shit about it. It was like I played for him in his office, you know, with my acoustic guitar, me and Matt Serletic, who ended up producing the record. And, you know, what I loved about Clive, and he gave me a lot of great advice that I still use, and as far as forming and developing a show, in any kind of a show, an acoustic or a band, but it was just this real, I hope I still have this, but I could just really get to the moment. You know, that's my whole thing. When I think great soul singers just are getting to the moment. They're like they're with you. They're not singing to the song they sang 10 years ago. They're singing the song they sang 10 years ago now for you. And I had that, and I had developed that. And when I got to Clive's office, it was just me and him and a chair, his chair and my chair. He's, you know, two folding chairs 4 feet apart. And I just played, and I think Clive always understood the moment, is what I gained from him. I did ask him about all the different artists he signed when he would came to about three of my shows. He came to my LA show, 2 of my New York shows. So I would get this time with him after the shows, and I said, man, you know, I know it's kind of German on you, but you're just, you know, you've done so much. I'd like to know, you know, how this happened with you know, with Whitney, or and it's just, I just think the guy had and still has such an intuitive, which you and I talk about, Dusty, just about that art really is the center of being in the moment in here. And I just think that guy just knew it. When he hears it, when he sees it, he just goes, holy shit, you know. And I don't think the age mattered to him. I don't think anything mattered except the truth that I was able to, like, at least do and I played for, like, he let me play for an hour, like, in his office.
Wow.
Played 3 songs twice. He wanted to hear them again. He had a good, I think I told you, he had an amazing kind of recipe that he said, I asked him, I said, why did you want me to sing those songs twice? And then Cry, I think, in Spaceship, maybe, he wanted me to recite the words, just sort of spoken word. And he said, I think, as I remember, he said, you know, I hear a song first, I think it's a hook. I want to hear it again if I think I want to hear it again. I say I want to hear it again. And then the other thing, which is interesting, he said, if a lyric is, the lyric is what makes it, apparently, this is kind of fascinating, makes a radio hit last almost twice as long on the charts if the lyric is heavy too. So it's like, you almost, and a friend of mine in Nashville was telling me the same story, Dennis Matkowski, another great writer. One of his first hit was Maniac, like Flashdance, like he's a monster pop writer. Yeah. And he gave me that same thing. I was talking about Clive, and he said, you know, it is interesting. There are, like, numbers that went, like, it's great to pull people in with a hook melody and or a hook beat or something. But at the end of the day, it lasts much longer if people want to keep digging in, because now it's really, like, lyrically heavy, you know, holding on to them. And I think that was sort of his trick or whatever. And it was amazing I was just blessed to be around him. He was so good.
And, you know, it's really crazy how in your life, certain things, when you tune in, right? Like I've been meditating for the first time in my life for, like, the past 8 days. And I swear to God, I have never found anything that has been as transformational in my life as that. And I'm just now tapping into it. So I have no idea what's to come. But the reason why I bring that up is that, you know, what it allows me to do is when I do come out of this moment of meditation, where sometimes I feel like I've completely left the universe, man. And I come back and I really, especially right after that, I'm really aware of the moment that I'm in. And it seems like this is just a recurring thing in my life. And for you to bring that up about your songwriting, and for you to bring that up about Clive, and, you know, being the genius, of course, that he is, you know, maybe it's that people who are able to have a huge impact on others are maybe a major reason of that is that they're learning, or someone in Clive's case is extremely practiced at being present. And being in that moment. And from that moment comes these things.
Right.
I was recently I did an interview with Dave McCracken, and that was last week's interview. And we were talking about, him being a traveling musician and touring 200 days a year and usually playing in front of like 3,000 people a night, and now being at home for 6 months. What kind of change that's been. But we really got into talking about that moment that happens. I know you've experienced this as well, Angie. It's like when the whole crowd and you and the band are on this vibration, man, and it goes to all kinds of places. And one interesting thing that David said was, if he thinks he'll lose it, he said it's just about feeling it. And I think that's another example of being right there, present in the moment.
Totally.
And maybe to all of the singer-songwriters out there that, especially can look to Angie. I mean, she's got some, man, Wonderland and Cry are just, they're fucking epic songs, man. And but, practicing getting in that moment may be something that helps, songwriters really write,
Well, no, totally. And I it's funny because when you were here on Hilton Head, I think we were talking about you hadn't mentioned thinking about meditation, but we were talking about that. We were talking about prayer life and all that stuff. And I'm with you, man. That is like, when I was in therapy for depression in my later life, I had I still see her every now and then, but I'm so way better now. But she had worked with several different artists, in Atlanta. And she said, she said, what you don't understand is that when you're on the stage for an hour and a half, you're in a complete meditation because you're just present. You're like, you sort of take, she said, you probably, which I thought I was doing, you probably just push this into this meditative medicine, to keep you happy for at least, an hour and a half a day or whatever. And I'm with you though, but I just think that's the outcome. Joseph Campbell would, the power of the artist is in most societies, the artist is the shaman, is the sort of the one that is more present and more aware, a little bit more aware and that's what to me, when I go see an artist or see art or watch someone sing or whatever the art form is, and they're in it, it's transformational to me. Like that's the whole point. It's not about, there's no separation between that artist and me when they're right and I'm ready enough to receive it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's just the magic, the magic of music. I mean, it's just, it's a transcendental thing.
It is. And that is why it is so important for us to hopefully sooner than later be able to go and see music again, because I think it is a necessary healing and a necessary void in a lot of our lives, not having that transcendental moment and not having that just absolute let go of everything and feel and move with what's happening that's being created right there on stage and right there within the energy of the people. It's just
people with you.
It's not replaceable.
Yeah,
exactly.
People with you. Yeah,
I know you've got to miss it, man.
Did you ever meet? Do you remember when Derek was playing drums with me? My first drummer.
I don't think I met Derek.
Played on the American, but he had an amazing realization about that. He was touring with you remember Titor? Titor was
absolutely.
from
Titor, man.
The islands. He was amazing. And so he went over there right around when we were still going hard, mid 2000, and he did Europe with him, and they were just touring in a van. He's looking out the window, and it's getting we're really entering the whole iPod era. We're really heading into the full on. Everyone has the butt, and he said, it's interesting. I don't know if it's good or great or whatever or not, but he said, man, it's really going into where everyone is in their own space, which I thought was like, because Derek's a heavy cat. And I was like, man, I'm with you, man. He said, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not talking about like in your own space. When I used to go to my basement with my vinyl records and listen and smoke pot or whatever, or be with maybe one other person, but usually no one but me, put out an Elton John record. He's talking about, no, you're in your own space while you're walking down, New York City.
Right. And this has come up in every single interview. It's amazing that, okay. So I was always referencing my daughter who's, been in her own space. And I look at the kids coming up these days. The first generation that is coming up within the internet and within these gaming systems and within these worlds where they're actually creating avatars of
Totally.
themselves and being in their world, like, Minecraft, $billion industry. All of these things are happening. David Cook and I were talking about this Rise of the Robots, which was written a long time ago in Westworld, that was on HBO. Of all these different things are kind of fusing together right now, where we're, with the CRISPR being able to make superhumans and the lives of humans being expanded, but to what degree and what for? And, Elon Musk is coming out with this thing where you can put it in your brain, and it's like a chip that is a computer that it works on the speed of thought, right? And these things are slated to come out like next year, I think. And then now we're looking at, boom, they're making progress at CERN with looking at, parallel universes. And now that, there's been a scientific article about possibility of it's now mathematically possible they found to teleport. So I think we're going to be able to view the most incredible shift in humanity ever. And then what we do with it is just fucking scary thing, man. Because I see where it may be like Ready Player One or even beyond that, where people are just in these little pods like you're talking about, and they don't interact and they don't do this thing where they're out and about with people. But if that's the case, the things that we know to be the most amazing moments of our life, whether, and of course from your perspective being on stage, but from someone that, is, in my perspective, always being off stage, those moments, if you lose that, you're losing something that is just, man, it would be like not being able to taste food or something, I don't know.
No, totally. No, you're right. I mean, and I think we were talking about Rupert Sheldrake. He's one of my favorite living scientists right now. But essentially, I can't speak for him, but basically what is coming up is really just an amazing shift in materialism. It's not really a shift. It's not a shift in consciousness. And that's the whole battle of art and religion. I mean, science and religion. That was the whole point, and I guess the French Revolution, had to get rid of God because the scientists want to become the new priesthood.
Right.
And it's great. And that's when materialism as science, grabbed on and atheism grew. But the bottom line is you can have a chip in your brain and all this stuff, but the only thing that will never expand consciousness, I do take one thing I do think will expand it is mushrooms.
I second that, actually.
I think that's not a chip, though. You might, you know what you do? You eat a lot of chips with it, but you don't. I don't know. It's so funny. But I mean, that's, and I got to send you, I will send you, Terence McKenna and Sheldrake and Abrahams did these trilogues in the 90s. Just as a side, I know I should tell you off air, but everyone else should go find these two. They did maybe 30 of them, just of them as trial. I got this stupid thing on my computer. Trialogues, where the three of them are just debating and talking, and it's like, to me, three of the smartest smarty panties in the world.
Wow.
And I'll send you some of this stuff, but everyone should check this stuff out. And they're really like looking at what is conscious, what is reality, what is consciousness, and the material. I love the idea. I do love the. I mean, I think I've told you I want to be a fucking robot. I don't like. I don't want to have like an old penis. I want a new one.
Well, I watched a documentary on this CRISPR, right? I was talking to the interview with David Cook, who has edited for James Cameron and is now directing SEAL Team. And he was talking about, I was telling you, we sent some stuff to David. But he was talking about, in a correlation of there was a book that was inspired Westworld. And the thing that they can do, like say they can change, one letter of your DNA and it repeats and it takes away your cancer, or you can start putting these, manipulating the embryo and it creates this super baby where you can decide how tall or how long your penis is or whatever. But what they don't have is the soul, man. What that personality, what that attitude is. And it's like Dr. Joe Dispenza's talking about, like when you wake up, a lot of people are living and a thought process that's pressed upon them in the past, and therefore they're living in the past, and therefore their personality is a result of their thinking of that. Well, with these superhumans, or with these things that are talked about being the future or the evolution, with science of humanity, that's really the missing thing, is they don't know. You know, we're gonna have a bunch of soulless humans like Gattaca or something. Like we don't know.
No, totally.
Without that, I mean, that's really what puts it in us, that makes us the artists that we are, or the things that come about that we really relate to purely. And that's, I think, with any art, whether it be comedy or music or movies, it's those things that get to the core of our
Totally.
of what we feel, that make us love it or even hate it, you know.
No, totally. I mean, because I think, and we are definitely in a crazy, well, the shift has been going on for a while, but I mean, even if you look at, like, in fact, this trilogue I just listened to yesterday with Sheldrake and McKenna and Abrahams, it was about what created the shift around 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years ago, there was the beginning of paintings on, cave paintings. This was a shift in, like, something happened, and the brain, apparently, I think from about 100,000 years ago till now, the brain has been the same size. And it was the same size 50,000 years before all this something happened. Of course, they're just using they had different theories on it, which are fascinating. And Sheldrake was sort of like, was there a spiritual kind of what is he called it? It was so fascinating. I'll send this to you also. But I think what I'm getting at is that's almost as a material shift as what you're talking about. The chip in the brain, like this might be our 50,000 year point. Right. Pull way back, and go, like, we're the 50,000 year point, that 50,000 year point where people were, language was beginning and all that stuff. So I do look at it like mostly a material shift, but when they talking about this thing 50,000 years ago, that's not material. That's transcendental. That's almost, Sheldrake was debating that it's divine. There was something that had happened that opened up this aura, because Sheldrake believes in the consciousness of the sun. So, I mean, I'm with you, man. It's fascinating to me, but I agree. At the end of the day, art is, what's the great quote from the Dead Poets Society? Art, something, but art is what we live for. It's such he's just giving I think he's standing on the desk or something. It's just such a beautiful movie. But it is, at the end of the day, like, what are you living for? So that you can transport to what you, not really. I'm sort of living to, like, be planted by some songwriter or some piece of painting making me now. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not. Yeah. And it's the irony of and I do love the molecular transport idea, because I love Star Trek. but I mean, what's funny with that is that's just trying to get to the future or the next moment. It's not really. It's a technology, but it's not like, it's not going to put you now. It's going to put you over. I'll be in Atlanta. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's fascinating stuff, because it's all a battle to me of past, future, or material. To me, that's the whole game. And then when you get beyond all those, then to me, that's when you're transcendental. When you're beyond your material form, when you're not worried about the future, not worried about the past, then you're just, you're real. You're like, to me, it's just where God is. It's the only place it is. Everything else is sort of an illusion to me, which is a fun illusion. I love illusions. I'm drinking one right now. You're aware of your breath, I guess. So, that's actually kind of a good lead into what your project that you've been working on. And I'm so fascinated about this. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because it's going to launch in 2021. So, maybe just a little teaser about what's coming for us, because I will definitely be a fan of this. So how did this happen, and when did you get into this, and what's Hollywood now? Well, about 15 years ago, I it's not that there's a part of me that thinks I was doing this, that was part of this sort of self-medication from meditating and art and all that as I do, now, how when you're making a piece of art, whatever kind of art it is, you're sort of like, if you're aware, you're sort of also saying I'm saying to myself, like, wow, why am I really doing this? So it's like, why am I making this other town that doesn't exist? Am I really just trying to get the hell out of here mentally, psychologically? Am I leaving? Am I just trying to like escape? Is an escapism,
Right.
which is fine. But, it does lead you. It's interesting that you make any kind of art form, and if you're aware, then you are sort of asking yourself questions as the third person, as outside of yourself looking down at it, or the third eye.
Right.
But so it's sort of, I think it may have started that way, but I just had this land that it's sort of a, it is the only world. It's a little bit of Gotham. Like there's nothing really beyond it. It's just all Bloomville. And it started there, and I just said, wow, I think I could have like my own place that maybe all my artistic ideas could live in, because I was, trying to work on illustrations and comic strips and music, and I, we were talking, I've talked to you about wanting to write these screenplays and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I just thought, man, maybe there's a place where all of me can just exist, where I don't have to be Angie Aparo. I can be many things, which honestly, I think it's healthier in a way, because it's not really, I had a debate with myself, which is really fucked up. I created.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh, it's so much. It's so
no,
good.
you're wrong, Angie.
Especially
not this way. Right?
Especially when the third Angie walks in. What's going on here? Both you go to your room. But I was sort of like, part of me was like, wow, it's weird. Are we creating this split personality stuff? And I'm like, no, not really. I think it's more healthy to have these sort of alter egos of all my musical forms. So there'll be, right now, I think there's 3 other than me. I'll be going under the name of Double A. I won't be Angie Aparo in Bloomville. And then these other 3 artists kind of represent these other forms of my musical art, from punk to just different musical format. And then there's other, my favorite one is Jaco Cornelius. He's just my favorite guy. He's my sort of my illustrator, my painter guy. And then they're just unfolding. Like there's some of these are like, there's a whole robotic, it's sort of I love cultures or societies that are really future, but really old at the same time. Like so there's this robotic part of Bloomville has been taken over by this large company, of course, and they're moving into this AI kind of world. But a lot of the early the Gen 1 robots are still there, and they're very interesting. So Henry is one of the guys that's my hero. I've written a whole book on him already that never came out. So it's like, it's sort of what we talked about in Hilton Head. It sort of gives me this placemat, and I can put it all in one space. And I'll tell you what, drawing the damn map is a trip. It really gets heavy because it's all about the map. And, I've done it, God, 50 times, literally. I mean, I've started 6 months ago on the map and just have still been throwing them away because it's so interesting. Shouldn't so-and-so be on the west side of the river? You know what I mean? Like that person, you're an actor. That personality shouldn't be above the tracks, whatever it is. Like, but what's interesting is I'm noticing, because it is sort of all of me, it is an amazing psychological view kind of at yourself.
And it ties into, and I'm just getting a glimpse of this, but when I've really, some moments in my own meditation have been about creating a world, where I sort of find myself in that is being created at that moment. And then I guess you being able to dive so in detail in that. Like I think about J.K. Rowling with, Harry Potter. And she must have been going through this exact process, where she's like literally, and there's this and there's owls and fucking, like how the candles afloat and like, holy shit, what fucking drugs was she on to be able to have the focus to get it all together? But the world that was created entire and so fucking intricate and vast and like what and it seems like you're diving into this same process, and that is to me just a level up of creativity that I personally don't comprehend, but I think is brilliant. And whether you but
No, it's just, I know it's just what's interesting about, it's because of the pandemic thing hit, and I was just like, there's nothing to do. I mean, I can't go on the road. And I just kind of went, my prayer meditation, which just was telling me, like, you just got to start this thing. I mean, I love music. Music's never going to go away, but there's just much more. I need more ways to speak. And so, but I'm with you, man. It's like, I'll tell you what, besides just the artistic side of it, just what has turned me into, like, literally, like, a kid again, is just learning all this new art form of, like, I'm doing very minimal, but to animate my characters and to just this other side of my brain that I never even used. I know I can make a record like that, but this is just like, oh shit, this is like, I'm 15 years old again. And I find that just as compelling and important as never making it. I mean, just to force myself into this world of, like, I know nothing about this,
Right.
And and then the story, the storytelling side, which you and I love, and that's going to be interesting. And I'll tell you one thing: when you were at Hilton Head, I was on this place where I was already moving into a story form, because I have to look at these as sort of season, like, episodic stuff, but I kind of want to put them almost like, I'm realizing there's several stories within this town that don't necessarily have to link up even season to season, because it is really a whole world, but it's a town. So there's, like, stuff over on the west side of town that might never see the south side of town. It's that kind of bizarre. So I know when you were here, I kind of, because we always have great conversations, like story stuff. I kind of pulled back from story form yet. And I said, the world isn't built yet. That's what hit me. Like, so I kind of refocused on character development, and I think that will tell me what the first season would be. I think it's hopefully be on Patreon. It'll be like a monthly, web series thing. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just makes you feel young again.
Well, I remember we were talking to you about a device. We were talking about a device and how important that is in telling the story, because that will move that with the right device, you can move anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
The device takes you in and out. I mean, it could be a different universe, or it could be the next door neighbor. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So, even just throwing the word device up on the wall and knowing that it's going to come to you, and then the challenge of linking those together kind of goes away, because then that little device will be able to bring it together,
Absolutely.
And so many people forget that. I was talking with Nick Swartzen down in Key West, and I ran into him at the hotel. We ended up going out that night and everything, and I met him earlier in New York, and he's a big star, and he was writing
he's great.
A buddy comedy for Netflix, and it got canceled that week because the other comedian had gotten Me Too that week. But he was telling me about the story, and I was like, well, what's, because he was like, he'd been there for 2 months and he was writing it, and I was like, well, what's the advice? And he was like, oh shit. Like,
I know.
That's the thing.
Isn't that crazy though?
Right. Because it's like one thing that you don't think about with filmmaking, and that's that, or storytelling. And then even with my conversation with David last week, David Cook, I said, how is this changing with the theater shutting down?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think the next thing is? Are movies, are they fundamentally going to, what's happening? You got your finger on the pulse out there. Do you feel like this is just nobody knows what's up? And he said, no, I think that no matter what, a good story will always win, and focusing on the story is everything, so no matter what platform it's distributed in, or no matter how people view it or not, a good story is a good story. And so, that's as you're thinking through all of that, the core of that will be the story of these characters, I guess. And how
totally. Yeah.
Really cool.
I think maybe we talked about this too. I do find what's fascinating to me is that, obviously there's no story, let's say between you and me, there's no story before we're born. You and I are born. Right. So we're born. And then we're alive, we're human beings, we're characters, and then we meet and we have a story. So that's why the story, of course, is all that wins. But the bottom of that is the characters are all that win. You have to have the characters. I don't even know what the characters want to do yet. I just want to have these interesting characters. And that's what I just find fascinating. And they're a part of the world, obviously, but I just kind of went back to my character pages on them, and I just found it. You know what I mean? I think we talked about it at the beach.
Well, interestingly about that, and one thing to maybe think about is as you develop these, a lot of these characters and their personalities are going to be based on their backstory.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really kind of cool. You know?
Yeah. Because we have, you and I, you have a backstory I don't even know about, and a lot of stories. I'm with you, man. That's why I think my character pages weren't deep enough. Like now I know like what happened to Sid when he was a kid. Now I know, you know what I mean? Now I kind of,
that's a massive amount of work. I mean,
well, it is, but you know, it's funny. It's really like you can go pretty quick. I can do a couple of pages on a character, and you can tell a lot of stuff, just the bullet points of like, this is what happened, then he went there with his grandmother, then she moved him to Bloomville, and then he's, and his grandma, his character's his first girlfriend drowns in Lake Sylvia. So it's like, you can get them pretty fast, but you're right. It's like, once I can see them as real people, then their backstory starts bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I think. That's how it is for songwriting for me. So I'm hoping that's the same for this.
Yeah. Wow. I love doing these interviews like this because you never know where they're going to go. And like, I enjoyed this. Even if we lost everybody else, I don't give a shit. It was really good.
Nice, man.
Dude, I can't wait to see that. And just so everyone again knows, it's Boomville, and it's coming out in, we hope, the summer of 2021.
Hopefully,
and it's being developed now. So anybody that gets to view this gets some inside track on where it is today. And I'm sure that by the time it releases, it's going to be something with a lot of other tentacles to it, which I'm just, I'm blown away. I mean, Angie, you're just incredibly creative. And you're, I end up saying this to a lot of people that, you're not what you do. Who you are is not what you do. And, even, you and being on stage with Faith Hill, and Faith Hill having tremendous success with your song, and, writing, hits for all of these different artists, right? But you are more than a singer-songwriter, even though I think vocally nobody can touch you. You're more than a singer. You're an artist and you're a creator. And I think the more that we all realize that we're creators,
I do too.
and tap into that, the more confident and the more free-flowing with that we become, and who knows what we can come up with. I mean, this is a monster challenge for you, and one that I'm glad that you delved into. But
don't you, I think we may have talked about this down here. It is interesting that, you take the pandemic, you remove a certain power of an artist, and they're still got to speak, so you do this, like the artist, it sort of is seeking, like, it's sort of seeking life. It's seeking like an expression. Deepak Chopra has an amazing, it's really a Vedic belief about, which is interesting. And this isn't about the artist, but it's interesting about what all things are seeking expression until death, and then hopefully seeking expression of the next life. But he uses the idea, the Vedics look at disease, as it's the dis-ease of the body, like the body's not at ease.
Dis-ease, right.
Dis-ease, right. So, but he said it's interesting. Their belief isn't that like they don't believe there's like cancer and polio. It's like you cure polio, and then the energy of disease expresses itself through this disease. And you cure this, and then it expresses itself, like it's expressing itself. I think they believe it's disease is a living entity, And I just think all things that are looking for, I know this is kind of still the argument, I think, I'm pretty sure, among doctors and all, but I kind of do believe that that viruses are living, they're looking for a host,
Yes.
So it's like, you're just looking
Their
like,
whole purpose.
Yeah, right. And I, and the other thing with just art is, and all of an artist, I mean, when everyone was just, when the virus hit, and then all our friends that are musicians usually are just like, okay, this is fucked up. What the fuck? Like, okay, not only did Spotify steal our music, now we don't have any shows. It's like, what the hell, man? Is God taking a big dump on me? What the hell's happening?
Right.
Right. But I think you're right, though. If the artists I know are what we're doing, like, they just like, oh, well, I'm going to express this, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to make this, or, Michelle Malone's
Yeah.
painting. You know, I mean, like I see my friends on Instagram. It's just, I just think the artist finds the way to speak, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you certainly have, man. Looking back at your career, a music career, um, because Angie also acts and writes and all kinds of things, but in your music career, which has been a focus of yours, and it's where you put a lot of intention. What were your favorite moments when you look back on like the moments when you went, man, this was.
It's weird. There's a lot of them. I mean, I was playing in Clive's office was the first kind of the first moment where I was like, wow, because you kind of know, but you don't know. You know, with your audience, but it's sort of like to be in front of him, and it was that. It was just so real. Like there was no bullshit. There was no sales pitch. There was no, and it went on for so long in the office. I just remember thinking, I said, wow, I guess I can do this. You know, like it's almost like this confirmation that you kind of have it on stage. Of course, people either clap or they boo. I get that. But this was just a different one. It was like, wow, I really wasn't just, drunk those nighs or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
or just high, or I was trying to hook up with a girl, whatever, it's like all these there's so many other moments in a live show that either look more grand than they are or less than they really are. And this one was just so real. I mean, it was just like, it's 11 a.m., here we go in Arista. And like, so I think that was one of them. And then the other ones were just being able to work with Serletic, and to sing with Faith and all. They've been so good to me, Tim and her. And I think moving through it all, it's weird, even though it's so much up and down. Music industry is a mess, obviously, and it's even more of a mess now. But I think because if an artist's coming into this from a spiritual or medicinal reason, I just think you wake up every morning, you already won. You already, you're like,
yeah,
you're already like, holy shit, I'm not fucking crazy yet. I'm not so depressed. I'm in suicidal craziness, and I'm actually have a smile on my face. I won. Like I want music. I won with music. And I think if that's really what you're going for, which to me is the art I love, is something that has more intention than just career. I think I was always blessed with that, to have that access to pick up a guitar and go, oh wow, I should meditate again, or I should sing for an hour for some, I think there's a few ones that are big, that look like big shining peaks of, something high, but they're all just like, wow, I'm like so glad I found this. There's a lot of people that don't find that one medicinal thing that is natural. There's a lot of obviously crazy medicine you can buy on the street from me. I'll meet you down the corner.
But no, I think you're right. I think so many people are searching for that, and being able.
Question for you though, Dusty. When did you? What? Because I'm always curious about other art forms. What grew you to acting? Did you have any of that psych stuff going on, or?
I always I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, and for a while, my mother, we came out of the project and we moved to the country, and there was no other kids around, and so I had this massive imagination, and I had multiple imaginary friends and stuff, and I loved to do different characters and things, and that was just something I did naturally. So when I came, I was like 18, I didn't want to go to college, so my mom was like, well, you've got to do something, right? So I opened the phone book, and the first thing I saw was the actor's workspace, and I went down and read the script for the first time. And the teacher of that class, Miley Cyrus, pulled me aside and was like, man, if this is the first script you've ever read, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I'm going to develop you, and I'm going to call my agent right now, and he's going to come down here and see you, and either like, this is something. And it was something that some people, I guess, like you have this, God-given voice. You got vocally, you can sing, right? And that's
right,
you can't just go train and you'll be able to hit the note, man. Like some people, right? You just got that, and so that's sort of how it was with me with acting. I just got it, I just could do it, and I just got it. And
Right.
of course, like loving the movies was a
So
huge help.
good.
Because I didn't just have this talent and not like the medium. I loved everything about it. So like I got into cinematography and editing and lighting and
Right.
and I get my head around like all of it was in individual arts, and it became nothing was as collaborative as that as well. I was talking with David, by the way, telling stories through movies is like a massive collaboration, and you've got to trust that everybody's really really good at what they do, and everything has to come together, like that on the same sort of storytelling vision, while also giving artistic freedoms within that, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting because you did say, I guess what I'm digging at is the same thing with mine might have been this piece of depression. It's interesting that there was sort of a piece of loneliness in you.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like there's some psychological thing that triggers, I think, the artist into sometimes, I think most of the time, moves them into the space because because like once you get to that space, then you sort of like you make it yours because you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I thought,
it's powerful,
interviewing was huge. Like when I would interview the kids in foster care and stuff for years, and the kids growing up that I did, I just behind that camera when I was there, I just felt such at home, like it was like a home base for me, and I guess maybe that ties back to when I was a kid, I know when to talk to. I talk to myself all the time.
No, totally, totally.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, when we think about what's coming up for us, like what in this stage, one of the things that I love about listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza is like he's always talking about when he meditates or when he thinks about things before he even gets out of bed. He spends like 2 hours working on his vision of who he's going to be for that day, and he doesn't like move to work until he feels like that person feels.
Yeah.
Right? Which is there's a lot of work to get there, I think, but so for you, having achieved what you have, which is something that, let's be honest, 99% of all musicians will not achieve. You've already done, and yet you're still a young man, in a lot of ways. You have this Boomville thing coming. What do you hope for? What do you see in your future? Like who does Angie Aparo develop into? If you had your,
it's weird, man. I think it's weird. It's a good weirdness, but it's crazy that, art was like medicinal. And then, I had my medical stuff and I was kind of moving past the medicinal aspect of art, and which is fun and better and a little more healthy. But then you're always afraid that like, once it's not, you're not like, grabbing to it, it's going to go away. But I'd realized that I was using it more as a meditation, more of a, like not to be depressed, but to be engaged with God more. So it kept moving through. But I'm telling you, what's crazy for me with art or not art or me as a person, before I walk, get off the planet, I'm kind of preparing the way, man. I'm like literally find myself like, not that I'm going to die tomorrow, not that I want to die. I want to live. Two of my grandmothers were 104. I whatever. I'm okay to live. I'm just saying it's interesting. I'm like, I really look at this like, wow, I'm sort of like preparing my next life while I'm living this one. So, I mean, I think I still want to do art. I love it. It's amazing. But I have this weird monastic view that's just has been on me for a while, for about 15 years. And now it's just sort of like, it's like resonating with me a lot. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's, I want to become a minister, or I want to go join some church. I don't know.
Right. Hey man, I think that may be where it's heading for me, but I'm going to travel around a lot. I think ultimately I'm going to like create a commune and some people. Everybody has like, like have all my creative friends come and live in hammocks and shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
we'll run through the daisy fields, whatever. I mean, it's available. It's got to be. Run through the Well, Angie, I just want to tell you, man. I don't know, for whatever reason you get to meet people in your life. You're someone that I would watch as a musician and go, my God, that guy is just so fucking talented. And I remember the time that just my jaw dropped was there was this I think I've talked about this before. Austin City Limits. That's what it was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you were in the round with Edwin McCain and Don McLean, the late Don McLean. And you know, Edwin's doing his best stuff, and Don McLean is about to do you know, American Pie, like the day the music.
Oh,
died.
yeah.
And you were right before him, and you did fucking Wonderland, dude. And so
Oh, yeah.
you did
Oh,
that,
we went to.
but you could hear like a pin, like it was like at least 7 or 8 pregnant pauses after the song that they did. Nobody knew what the fuck to say, and Ellen McCain's like, man, he fucking does that song every time. It was like just show-stopping, man. Like, you know, even the day the music died wasn't gonna stand up as a performance after that song. And I was just like, God damn, Angie Aparo is a man, you know. And so having the whatever it was with the universe, man, be able to cross your path has been a real treat, man. And I'm just so thankful that not only do I know you and I've gotten to even work with you.
Yeah, I love working with you, man.
To be able to have you as a friend and to talk to you about all the wonderful things. As someone who is so creative, man, I'm just really appreciative, and I want to, you know, very much thank you for taking the time out of all the crazy creative shit you got going on to pause with me and chat. But and also want to plug this for those. It's a little ways out, not too far.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe it's December 13th. Is you, Mark Cano of Athenaeum,
Right.
and Sam Fraser together. And I think that is going to be absolutely, if you don't see that show, you are a fool, because that is going to be something.
And it's right where you're sitting, right?
Yeah, it's right here in the Flatiron. And we're on this stage at the Flatiron on December 13th, and we will be ready for you. And I can't wait for you to come up here, man.
Dude, and I got to tell you, man, you know, I don't have, it's interesting because we, you know, artists have a lot of, people think artists have a lot of friends, and we do, but we never get to really see them. But I love the fact that I get to be with you more than most other artist friends I have, you know. And I just love when we talk. When, you know, it doesn't matter. We can be drunk at the bar. I don't care. But this is great, man. I want you to do. You're going to crush this thing. I want this thing. This show's going to be great.
Well, dude, thank you so much for being on, dude. And I think it's going to be, anyone that listens as an artist or as a creative is going to get something out of it, I believe, because what, you know, you were able to tell. And is there anything that you want to plug while, you know, we're here? Anything coming up that you want to talk about? Or?
Not much going on, man.
All right. Well, hey, no. I look forward to, you know, making another trip down to Hilton Head. You know, if not before December, but if I can't get down there before December, which I'd like to do, if not, then definitely when you come up in December, man, let's have some good times.
Yeah. And people come out. Greensboro's not far away. Come on.
It's not, man. Right there. Angie, I love you to death, man. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this, brother. I really appreciate it.
I love you too, man. Thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll call you this week, man.
Okay. Bye.
All right, buddy.